Hey Javon,
Hi, Paurush. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Great, thank you very much. Firstly, thank you very much for accepting this offer. I'm very glad to connecting with you.
Mm-hmm.
I hope our
Thank you.
this interview will be very helpful for many young designers and many people in the beginning of their career.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you are ready, we can start.
Yeah, before we dig into it, could you just give me an intro, like, what is this that
hmm
you're doing,
Uh,
and how do you broadcast this, and how it helps other people?
so, this is our first interview.
Okay.
The idea came because I'm also in the recruitment process with some
Yeah.
companies, and I decided to take the experience of people in fan companies, and to
Mm-hmm.
upload it on YouTube in order to share their experience and their advice for young designers.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the questions will be about your education, your career path, your beginning career, and how you find your job, your first job, for example. And like this is not a job interview.
Mm-hmm.
And like this, I will try. You can say anything about. Firstly, you have to introduce yourself. You have to speak more about yourself, not just with two or three sentences. You can say anything about yourself. This
Mm-hmm.
can also be motivation for some people. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I there's no any NDA questions about your company. About you have to say anything you want. If you
Mm-hmm.
agree, or any you have any questions about the interview.
Okay. Cool. No, no,
Mm-hmm.
let's do this.
The first question is, can you tell me more about yourself, your education, your home country? Yep.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So, my name is Paurush Rathi. I was born and raised in India, New Delhi. There is where I did my undergraduate degree in electronics and communication engineering. As soon as I got into it, very quickly I realized that this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I started exploring different things that I could do. Like most of us, I was a very lost student in my undergraduate bachelor's degree in the initial years. And I started doing web development and started to, you know, play around with HTML, CSS, and then doing some Python Django stuff to build websites. And something that really called out to me was front end. It was like instant gratification. You change the color code and you can see what's happening, whereas you can't really see that in back end. It takes so much time. So through that, I got my first design internship in after 2 years in my college, and believe me, I have had my fair share of rejections as well to get there. But it's the hardest thing to get your first gig, and everyone I think has gone through rejections when they're starting in their career.
Yeah, we have many questions about rejections yet.
Ah,
Yep.
okay,
Just
cool.
speak about your. Yep. And you are coming to about your design, right? You are in the front end, right? So
I am a UX designer
yeah, I
at
mean
Microsoft right now.
about
Yeah.
your history. You were in the front end in the beginning, right? How did you switch from front end development to UX design?
So I was not really in the front end. It was more like we had a club in our college, so I was exploring front end,
Mm.
and then I got an opportunity to learn digital designing like through Photoshop in my college's fest. Like, there's a fest thing where they had a creatives team, and I got to design some graphics for them. And
Mm-hmm.
that is where I was introduced to Photoshop for the first time. And then from there, I was like, okay, this is cool. You can do so much. And then I started applying for graphic design jobs
Mm-hmm.
initially. And I got rejections. And then I finally got a design internship. As soon as I got into the internship, I realized that it was a UI UX internship because I was just told that it's going to be a design internship. And that is where I found out what UI UX was.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So here's a question: why you chose design? And
Hmm.
you told me about your when you heard about design. So question is, why did you choose design?
Mm. That's a very interesting question. I am honestly, it's not something that I always thought that I wanted to do. It's something that I got an opportunity to do and I found really satisfying. and there was a gratification. I enjoyed doing it. And the more I did it, the less it seemed like work. If you've heard the quote from Steve Jobs, right? If you love what you do, you're not really working. So that was it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So here's an important question. Let me tell you, what is the importance of university diploma to get a job, especially art universities? Is there any importance of diploma in getting a job in at fund companies or whatever?
Mhm. At this stage, something that I've observed as a pattern. Uh, so for fan companies, right, what
Mm,
happens is there are two ways to get in. One, you have experience, and that is where most of the jobs are. It's very hard to get a job without no experience in a fan company. You need some level of experience. The only way to get without experience is through a university where they get you into an internship through the university. So if my suggestion, if you want to get into a fan company, is to get some experience under your belt, get some projects in, and then apply to these companies, because I don't think there are any jobs such. You can find a lot of internships in software development and all that stuff, but for UI UX, there are very little in these companies, and the ones that are there are usually filled through universities. So for your question about diploma, I think that's the only reason I would go into a diploma. There are so many bootcamp courses as well that are being done. So for me, I see a diploma as an opportunity to spend time with like-minded people and learn from them and grow. It's not really about design. It's about the other things that you learn there. It's about how you learn to learn, basically, and that's very
yeah,
helpful.
yeah. Thank you. And can you remember how many companies you have applied for by the time you got your first job? And what
Oh,
is your
that's
first job?
right.
I think it's graphic design, right?
That was like a small internship I did. But in terms of my first job, hmm, I think I might have. I was kind of lucky. I got a referral from someone to get my first internship, but I think I faced 5 or 6 rejections before that. But that being said, when I wanted to get my first real job out of college, at that point I would have applied to, I don't know, 20, 30 companies to get a job. And I think that is every time in your career, whenever you want to switch, you have to apply to companies and find your fit.
Okay, that's great. So you for your first job you got a referral from your friend, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool, that's great. So how did you join Microsoft? Can you
How
tell
did
me the
it?
process? For example, you were in India, right? Did you come to Dublin for study or for after you got the job you have relocated to Ireland?
Okay, so I came in 2019 to do my master's from Dublin, from NCAD, which is one of the best schools there. It was a terrific experience, but halfway through the course, COVID hit, and we were all forced to work from home or study from home. I completed my degree, but I was in a very tricky situation regarding my visa. I couldn't get a job here because I was on a student visa, and I couldn't go back to India because I need to stay here to get my visa. So basically, I had to find a job in India that I could do from Ireland. So I found like a remote job for a year. I did that, and then as soon as things eased up and I got my visa, I went back to India because I was working in an Indian company. So from there, I started applying for Microsoft and other companies in Ireland because I had a visa here. But Microsoft was a company who does not care if you have a visa or not. Usually, some roles, yes, they don't sponsor, but for most of the roles, fan companies would sponsor and relocate you.
Okay, and here another question. So, how is the chance of fan companies hire juniors? Are there any chance?
What do you mean by junior?
I mean, for example, I'm a junior designer, right? Uh,
How many years of experience are we talking?
uh, 1 to 2 years of experience.
Hmm. 1 to 2 years of experience. So the trend that I have seen, right, in fan companies, the way for 1 to 2 experience to get in is through internships there, and then they can translate into full-time roles. But and if There are some roles, I'm not gonna lie, for even a junior level, entry level program, like a UX designer or product designer, but most of them are based in US, as most of the design jobs are also based there. Like they're everywhere now, but primarily all the companies have headquarters in the States. So the biggest team of designs is usually in US. So those roles do exist there. But as I said, they usually go for they have collaborations with universities and the students would have worked with them even before. But it's all fair game. You can apply to those roles, but there are less of them.
Okay, thank you. Uh, Here's a question about soft skills and hard skills.
Hmm.
So, which is important? Which is more important? Let's go, soft skill or hard skill?
Hmm.
And the continued part of question: should a candidate be very skilled from technical point, or should he or she have strong soft skills? For example,
Okay.
if I'm applying for a company, which is more important? Should I have more soft skills or hard skills?
Okay. Honestly, you need both of them. There needs to be a balance. Some people think it's more about hard skills, but soft skills are equally, if not more important. I wouldn't say that either of them is more important, but a big part of design, I think you can see on Dribble and Behance, everybody can design. Nowadays, like everybody can create something beautiful. But I think the bigger part becomes about communicating it. And it's not just about communicating, it's about convincing people in a way that, everybody has perspectives, especially in FANG companies. You work with a lot of smart people, and it's you never do something alone. You work with researchers, you work with content, you work with managers, PMs, and they all work on the same problem. So once you get come up with a solution, everybody has their perspective. So how do you convince them that what you are saying, let's go with that or not? So that I think is a really tricky part: stakeholder management and effective communication, and that is something that a majority of your time will be spent doing as a UX designer rather than designing, I would say.
Okay, thank you. So here's another question. In myself, for example, there are many people like me, and I'm in Poland, in Lublin. So I went to almost all of the software companies here, and when I uh, gave them my resume, I told them if my abilities doesn't match your requirements, I'm ready to work for free. But
Hmm.
none of them gave me a chance. Also, I told them I can work for free. So I thought, so money isn't the first thing. Companies doesn't care about the money. However, another thing I should consider that, for example, I thought in the beginning I thought if I tell them I can work for free, they can hire me. But none of them gave me a chance. Also, I did this.
Mm. Okay.
So
So,
I
well,
mean,
well, mhm,
uh, what do you think about this? For example, for example, not only me, there are many people who think like me, for example.
mm,
So what should I do to get, uh, as you probably know, to get the job you need experience, and to
mm,
get the experience you need a job, right? So I
right.
thought to get the experience I can work for free, but
Mm,
companies don't care about this, most of them, because I don't know why.
mhm.
I
What
mean,
kind of companies do you go to?
in Poland, there are not big tech companies. There are local
Hmm.
companies in Lublin.
Hmm.
I went to all of them. Yep.
Right.
You
Okay.
you have any solutions or suggestions to improve?
Mm, okay. That's a very interesting question. I think that's the biggest question everyone is facing problems with to get your first job. How do you land it? I think there are two things when you say someone that I'm going to work for free. One, they think that you don't have confidence in your abilities. So even a decent company pays even for their interns. So nobody generally in the real world wants you to work for free. So it shows, on one hand, it shows, yes, you're very enthusiastic, you want to get to work, you want to get it done. But on the other hand, I'm thinking like the guy doesn't think that he can get, his time is valuable. And that is something that you need to figure out. You need to always have his confidence.
Mm,
Because when I'm employing you as a company, I'm paying you to solve problems. And what you're proposing, because I'm investing, everyone's time is valuable, right? They will be working with you. So if you're working for free, it's like you don't have any stakes in the company. And so I think you were on the right track to say that I'm very eager, enthusiastic. The only thing I would emit from that statement when doing this is that I want to work for free. What you can say is I'm really looking for my first opportunity to work. I'm very enthusiastic, and these are the few personal projects that I have done. Something that you should do before you approach a company is have a portfolio. I'm not sure, I've not seen yours, but it can be of your own work, personal projects, but it is something that I will judge you on. Like if somebody comes and says to me, "Hey man, I want to work with you," I'm like, "Okay, cool. What can you do?" Right? I'm gonna see at your work. So first, I would suggest everyone in the same boat. If you cannot find work, quickly do something, some designs. You know, there are a lot of hackathons going on around the world,
Mm.
and that is a good way to go meet people, similar people in a team, create a project in a very short time. I love hackathons, and it gets a portfolio piece, and you can say, okay, I went to Google Hackathon and I did this on accessibility or whatever, and that's a portfolio piece, strong portfolio piece. And now when you go there and you can say like, oh man, we came in second or we came in third, you won't win. That's totally okay. But you know, I've been doing this. I just want my first break.
Mm-hmm.
That's a much better proposition for me, rather than because what I want you to do when you come to me is that you know your value. Even if you're trying for an internship position, you are giving me time, so you need to be paid.
Yep, I have got portfolio. I have got also. I have worked as a UX UI designer in my country,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things they told me that you don't have enough commercial experience. Then I realized that there is difference between experience and commercial experience, right? Can you tell me the
Mm-hmm.
difference? For example, uh, in my portfolio there are many things that my own project. They are my own project, but I have attended in commercial projects, in real projects. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
therefore, they told me you don't have enough commercial experience, and they told me that there is difference between experience and commercial experience. The first experience is you can take with your own projects, personal projects, but you haven't worked in any real projects, commercial projects. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. Another thing they told me about this. So
Okay.
how to get, how to get a commercial project done, for example.
So there are some few ways again you can try, right? There are platforms like Freelancer and Fiverr.com. I'm sure you would have heard of it. It takes, it's difficult to get your first gig, and if you want to work for free, put your hourly rate as really low there, and you could possibly get your first gig.
Mm-hmm.
Now, something you need to remember is you will upload your designs there as well, your portfolio pieces. And if your quality of work is not at a level of, say, $5, you won't get that job. So it's not just about how low you quote yourself, it's also about the quality of work. They need to have a match. And if none of those things are happening, then you might look at how can I improve the quality of my work. To be very honest with you, I'll give you an example. As soon as I did my first internship, then I got my first job, and it was a startup. They were paying me really less, and I was doing it with college full time. After that, I built my first portfolio piece and I applied to all the big companies, all the tech companies, and I was like, why is nobody replying to me? I got a job. I built a portfolio. I have the experience. I have everything now. I have 6 months of experience. Why are they replying to me? I have a portfolio. But the thing is that everybody wants to hire you, but everybody has certain expectations. And it's your job to reach those. As soon as you reach those expectations, you're going to get calls. That's one aspect of it. The second aspect, because I don't know you and what you've been doing, or, for other people in this boat as well, cold messaging and, just reaching out to people on LinkedIn, how you did to me, works. It might have a lower, what is it called, conversion rate, but it works. And certainly you should reach out to, if you apply for a job, what I do generally is in LinkedIn, I go to that company, then I go to people, and wherever I've located, I put the filter of location, and then I reach out to the HRs or the recruiters and say, see, I'm really interested in this role. I've applied for it. Could you help me out in any way or connect me to the right person? And I do this to 50 companies, you would get one or two callbacks at least.
Okay, so nowadays the case studies of designers, I mean the portfolios and the resumes are all almost similar, right? The
Mhm.
style of case studies and their resumes are almost similar, the same. And here's the question: how to make our application stand out in a crowd?
Mm. See, something you need to do is you need to get inspiration from all the good designers that are out there. This is what I did as well when I was coming out. You need to know what needs to be there. And once you know that, then you need to put your own personality into it. And that is what every company generally, I would say, prefer. But when you're trying to break in, I don't think it's about setting yourself as unique. That is at another level, like a level higher. Initially, what you need to do is the fundamental things that need to be in a portfolio, you need to do them right. Because portfolio is just one step in the door, one foot in the door. It's just that you get one call back, and then it's all about you doing well in the interviews and cracking those.
Okay, okay, thank you very much. And another question about Microsoft: how is it? How is a typical day of you or any designers at Microsoft?
Mm, that's a very interesting question. So, th- honestly, I don't think there's any template for a day. You don't have a same day. You hell don't even have a same week. Every week is different. You're working on different, it's very fast paced. And something that at least my team has is a very high standard of design and of your your professionalism. So anything you do, they need to meet that standard. But now I'm going to talk to you about what a usual person would do.
Yeah.
It would be like if I'm giving you a brief, I get a lot of freedom and autonomy of how I want to drive that project at my level, which is the UX2 level. But then there are certain collaborators, like a product manager, then there's content, there's research, they're all your partners and they're all equal and you need to work with them, you need to collaborate with them, and it's your responsibility to reach out to them at certain stages of the project when you need to engage with them. And obviously there is the user. Now, one thing you need to do proactively other than this is get reviews. And reviews can be done with these stakeholders as well as your manager or your own team members. So that is how you usually drive a project forward. And once it goes into development, then you need to be really closely working with the developers. And those developers might come up with cases that you did not think about or nobody considered, but those need to be fixed on the fly. They come in really hot at that point. And so that would be the general way we work. Apart from that, I guess another thing is you're not only working on one project, you're working on two to three projects
Mm-hmm.
at once, if depending on your level, of course. And then you need to be very good at uh, time management. And yeah, I would say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's more or less it.
Okay, okay. So, what's your opinion? Internships should be paid or unpaid?
I think it should be paid definitely. If somebody is giving their time, everyone's time has value, man. If you go even as a student when you work in McDonald's, they're gonna pay you minimum wages. So minimum wages should at least be paid in an internship, if not more.
Mm-hmm. And should I study at university to get internship opportunity?
I think it depends on what you're trying to achieve. If you're just going to an university to get an internship, I don't think that's the best thing to do. At university, if you think you need to learn the craft, the trade, and then you need to build your personality and other things, then I think university is a great thing. But if you just want to land that first internship, and you cannot afford, then I would still say that, well, then there are two things. One, if you want a kind of a validation, then maybe do a bootcamp course online. If you don't want that, and if you build really cool portfolio pieces, look for opportunities. There are events and competitions happening out there, so you get a real kind of brief, and you do with people as well, which is really cool. Get your portfolio in and keep applying. Uh, there are two things then. Again, what you could do is reach out to people on LinkedIn and then say, "Hey man, what do you think about my portfolio?" Get some other eyes on it, like because at one point you're just looking at it again and again. You don't know how to improve it, and then maybe the problem is that the level of designs is not meeting the standard. That could be another problem.
So thank you for your answer. And next question is there, in your opinion, is there difference in the requirements of fund companies for candidates between now and in the past, for example, 7 to 10 years ago? In my
Mm,
opinion, uh, for example, 7 to 10 years ago, it was easier than now to get a job at fund companies. But I think now, for because of high competition, it is difficult. I mean, the requirements also are higher. Is that correct,
mm.
or any opinion?
Okay, so I don't know the answer to this honestly because I wasn't in the market 7 to 10 years ago. But something that I do know, that is again my own opinion, and probably it's wrong. Fan companies always had a very high standard when they were recruiting, and especially companies like Microsoft back in the old days, they wouldn't even recruit anyone if they didn't find that standard. And so UX is something that is new, but fan companies' recruitment process has always been difficult, or I would say it's not difficult. It's like they are looking for people at a certain level. So you need to polish your skills and get there. So everybody is equal in a certain level. And so everybody is an expert, and you need to collaborate with all the experts. So when you're hiring the expert, they have a very high standard in terms of skill set. That is why it's really difficult to get in without experience into a fan company, in my perspective.
Okay, thank you. And another question is, from your own experience, from your, experience, can you tell me resume tips? What have you done wrong in your recruitment process, and what you suggest to improve for young people, for young designers?
Mm,
The main things.
that's a very good question. In terms of wrong, what I would say is I would give some tips that would be helpful. I was just like most of you, I was very lost as well in the process. But what I did was I looked at LinkedIn of people who have made it, and then I looked at their resumes and their portfolios, and then if you look at a lot of them, you will find patterns, and then you'll be like, okay, this is worked for 20 people, and this must work for me as well. And the other thing I would say is I put in a lot of effort into my portfolio to build it, and it was not built in a day or in an iteration. It was multiple iterations and getting feedback from my classmates, my friends, from other designers on LinkedIn, but trying to get to that level because I'm a very strong believer that it's not that fan companies are out there and they're like, no, 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 we don't want to hire Mike. It's like Mike needs to get to the level where fan companies hire to get a call back. And this is something that I struggled with as well. And I only realized that once I reached that level, I was like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. It was my portfolio which was not at that level.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you. And how to get referral for your company or other companies where I know no one there. For example, I don't know anyone at Microsoft or any at companies. How can I get a referral to that company?
That's an interesting question. Firstly, you should not, because referrals are for people who you've worked with traditionally. It's like, oh, I've worked with this guy, he's cool, he's smart, he would be a good fit. So this is probably technically wrong to do that, but something you could do is you need to call out people like you're having a chat with me. Actually go and visit people in their company, talk to them, and get really interested in their work and propose something, and then be like, could you possibly see me as a good fit? And could you refer me? That could be a way I would do it, but that is, you need to be really persistent with someone and find in Poland's Google office somebody and be like, well, I'll buy you coffee if you just share your experiences and what you're doing.
Mhm. Okay, and last question is, can you what your book recommendations to read? Your at least three books that you recommend for anyone about design or
Mm,
life, whatever your favorite three books to read that anyone should read.
that's a very good question. I think anybody trying to make a design or even a product, I would say you need to read Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman. It's a classic. But then, other than that, something that has helped me recently is Atomic Habits.
Atomic
It's a
Habits.
fantastic book, really, really good. And then, apart from that, there are two books that I would say, again, these are not related to design, but these are The Power of One. Because for the longest time in life, I was like, oh, why can't I multitask? I'm really good and focused when I'm doing one thing, but I cannot do five or 10 things. And that book tells you that you don't have to. It's really cool if you can do one thing really well. And then the other book I would say is Power of Moments, and that book is fantastic. It tries to tell you how to have impact in situations. They have their framework and everything. Really lovely examples, and it's like how to create a moment artificially or naturally. What do real moments consist of, and why they're so powerful?
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And
Oh.
another, and the, okay, okay, last one is, you have, I mean, passed those steps of recruitment from junior. I mean, you have lived those moments. For example, some people, there are some people who are in the beginning of their career or in the recruitment process. I mean, you feel them. You have because you have, uh, you were in that moment, in the I
Mm-hmm.
mean, in the past. I mean, yep. So
Mm-hmm.
your advice is for those who have stress or struggles in this process.
Okay. So my number one advice is it's okay to be lost. It's totally okay to be lost. That is because this will never stop. Even when you get into Microsoft, Google, Facebook, you will again be lost. So it's like understand this now, and this will always happen with you. You have your days, you have your good days and bad days. And when you're lost, it's your responsibility to figure out ways to not be lost. And I think LinkedIn is a great way. And another great way is like what you're doing, reaching out to people, trying to understand how they solved it. I think that's the best way. So that would be tip number one. Tip number two is if you put concentrated efforts in the right direction, you will get there. It's it's not about if you will or not, it's about when. So it's all on you, and it's not hard, but it is a long journey. That is what you need to know. It's not hard. Design is fun. Everybody loves to design, and that brings me to that third point, and that is never like don't do something that you're not enjoying doing. If you're having fun in design, try to do things that you enjoy. Like if you really love visual design, if you love problem solving, if you love strategy or business side of it, go do more of it and try to understand like what you love in design and what's your calling, and then really enjoy and put it in projects because it will reflect. If you're having fun and you're really enjoying, you're putting in, you're being passionate about something, it shows in your portfolio pieces.
Okay.
Hmm.
Thank you, Paurush, for your time and your effort. I
No
appreciate
worries,
it.
Avon.
I
Yeah.
hope our this conversation or this interview will be helpful for many people.
Hmm.
They may be designers or developers. Yep.
Hmm.
Thank you
Cool.
very
Thank
much,
you,
Paurush.
Javlon. Have a good day.
Have a good day. Bye bye.
Bye.